Good morning. Clearly, we are rusty at getting back. We are just back. We're marketing moms. I'm Ann, and
Anastasia.
and we are here to help you market your business. This is going to be a little, actually, I'm going to do something we haven't done much of last year. I'm going to tell a story to start about what happened in my house last night, just because it's so crazy that I feel like I should share it, and Anastasia hasn't heard it. So what we will do before we start anything else, let me just say we are marketing made easy. That's what we do. We make it easy for our clients, but we also make it easy for you. So you don't have to hire us to do your social media. You don't have to. We would love you to, but you don't have to. There's a lot of stuff you can do on your own. Those are what the tips are that we're going to be giving here each and every week. We did take a month off, and that's where I want to start real quick and catch you up on what happened last month. I got a call actually December 1st, which was a Monday. And I got it first thing in the morning and found out my dad was dying, and I had to take 2 weeks to go. I shouldn't say I had to, I got the opportunity. I was really blessed to have the opportunity to go to Alabama and spend 2 weeks with my dad as he was dying. And that was incredibly hard, but really a blessing, because not everybody gets to do that. And I've talked to a lot of people who suddenly found out their parent had passed, and that's really hard. At least I got to say goodbye. So that's what I had 2 weeks there. I came back and everybody has heard of pregnancy brain, right? There is a mourning brain or a grief brain that I had no idea about. So I was useless for the last week of the month. And luckily I had Anastasia and I had my team, and they took care of everything. And that was a blessing. I had a blessing in so many ways. But now I'm going to tell you something funny. We're not going to talk about death anymore. Last night, 2:00 in the morning, I was sound asleep because I go to bed at 9:30 at night. So I'm sound asleep in my room, and Anastasia's got a kid there. I can see. She's
making big trouble right now. Nope. Go.
Here's the story. 2:00 in the morning, I am sound asleep, and I sleep really well. Have my noisemaker in my room. I'm like sound asleep, and suddenly I hear Montgomery County Police, stay in your room. And I was like, that's in my house. And it was. And before I went to bed, I always do the same thing. We have a lot of doors in our house. So I went around and I shut all the doors and I locked them. So I'm like, how are the police in my house? Right. I have no idea. The police are in my house. Rocky's going nuts, and Luna's, doing her little bark, which is Tiny. That's our new dog. And I'm like, oh my God. So I said to Blaze, go get Zane. And he starts to go out of the room, and the police said, I said, stay in your room. So we're like, crap. So I text Zane, and he's like, so I called the police because I heard somebody downstairs.
What?
Turns out we left the door open in our basement because it was an unusual situation. We had somebody here yesterday that we let out that door and let him in that door, let him out that door, and then we didn't lock the door, which is really unusual. But I don't know who it was or what they were doing, and
so somebody was in your house.
I think so. Yeah. Zane was very adamant that he's like, I heard them come up the stairs. I heard them, come up the basement stairs. I heard them in the kitchen. So yeah. Anyway, kind of crazy though.
That is crazy.
It just really reconfirms the fact that I would be a really horrible criminal, because all I heard was police, and I'm like, oh my God.
And this confirms the fact that I tell you that you need to lock your doors.
Lock the damn doors, right?
Oh my gosh.
I know, but I have been, that's why I look like, I'm just going to use that as my excuse of why I look like crap this morning. So anyway.
When I first started working for Anne, she did not lock her doors. And I was adamant that they get a lock that they could lock. Right, and exactly. They got a keypad, and it's been great. And now it just
it confirms it, right? It's really all I can think is we've had a problem with a homeless person living sort of in our neighborhood. And people have been saying that they thought maybe he was coming in. So I'm wondering whether that was him. But
See, and that's just sad.
I know, because he was only in our kitchen. He didn't take anything.
Yeah.
Only in our kitchen. He was in our cabinets because the cabinets were all open. So anyway, I don't know. But on to marketing. So we send out, I will tell you, a really good email. It goes out at the beginning of the month, every single month, and it has really what we think are really great tips for you and your business. Most of the time there are things that you can put to work immediately. In this case, we're going to talk about what we sent out last month, which is what to expect in 2022 for your digital marketing, because digital marketing changes by the minute. It changes. And you called me over the holiday. We take the last week of the month off, and you called me and were like, Facebook changed again. And it was a pretty major change, right? It was.
Yeah. It was. It's really, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, we've talked about this before, when you invite people to like you, when you go through, you have to look at the comments that people are making, and you have to invite people to like your page once they've liked an image or a post or whatever. And they've changed how it used to come up and say, hey, this person liked your photo, invite them to like your page. And that doesn't come up anymore.
Yeah. So now it's
a roundabout way to go in and find it, which isn't obvious every time too. So I haven't tried it on the computer. I need to figure out how to do that. Because I was surprised, because I was going through the clients, and every day when we're going through, like, we're always finding people to invite. And there were multiple days where there was no one to invite. And I thought, that's really weird. And so then I started clicking around, because I was like, there's just no way that out of our 50 clients, not one person that doesn't like the page had liked something.
Exactly.
And then I found that there were many, many, many people.
And
it took me a while to get everybody invited.
That is such an easy, organic way to get more likes. And we actually had the cyber unit of the U.S. Navy call us and ask us some questions about digital marketing a few years ago. And I said, well, one thing you can do is this thing where you invite people who have liked a post to like your page. And they're like, okay, we were thinking maybe something that, bigger. And I was like, well, give that a try, and then we could talk about something bigger and how we do it. So they did. They gave it a try, and they called me a couple of days later, and they said, oh my gosh, we have 50 new likes just in the last few days because we've done that. And I was like, it is free, and it's magical, really, because people do like a page when you ask them to.
And these people have already seen it, right? So when people get so hung up on the number of page likes they have, but those aren't the numbers that you really need to look at. You need to look at your audience. Like, how big is your audience? And if you're looking in the insights, you're going to find that so many more people than your audience and are seeing things. Right. For some clients, it's not as many. People that have a ton of likes and a ton of followers, maybe they're not seeing as many as their followers. But for some people that don't have as many, their page is growing. It's they're just not seeing it. Right. Exactly. They don't want to like the page. I mean, I tell you, there are plenty of things that I engage with that, don't necessarily go and follow through on the page. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, which is why when you've liked something, we make sure you get that invitation that, hey, you like this, maybe there's more for you to like, exactly. And we find it very responsive.
Exactly. So first of all, I want to say, yes, things are going to change, but some things are staying the same. And some things we have drilled into you for years. Even before we did this podcast, we've been drilling this into people for years, which is personalization, being more human, not trying to make, and when I say personalization, I'm not talking about having Dear Ann at the beginning of your email. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about you being more personal online. So if, a good example of this for me is Chris Case with Case Home Inspections. He does a really good job of doing things to show what he's actually doing. He takes pictures when he's out. If he's with a realtor, he takes pictures with the realtor. So people get to know him as a person, not just his business, right? And that's something you really have to do. How do you get people to know you as a business or yours? And sometimes maybe it's not you. So think about somebody like Baltimore Coffee and Tea. Those owners aren't out there. They have been in the business for a really long time. They don't really want their face out there as much, but they do put their baristas and they put people who are in their stores. They share their photos and they talk about, hey, this is who you're going to see when you come in the store, right? And people like that. So being more personal, being more human is a huge factor. And it has not changed in probably 3 years. We really started seeing it about 3 years ago. Makes a huge difference. And that also includes responding to people, right?
Yeah.
So
definitely. I mean, it's, you know, we do have a client that struggles with this. Like he really doesn't want to put himself out there. We're actually meeting with him next week. But I think I mean, you have to be what you're comfortable with, you know, like you have to be comfortable sharing your personal life. But it's not all your personal life, you know, like it's curated. It's what you want people to know. But just, you know, but then at the same time, this falls back on our whole idea that no business owner has a personal page. Well, really, nobody has a personal page. Like it's not, regardless of who you are and what you do, your page is never going to be personal. There's always going to be, I mean, this is what we're drilling into our kids, right? So when we were growing up, there was no social media. We didn't have to worry.
right.
We're lucky, you know, we went to university and college and did some stupid things.
And not me. I've never.
The film is destroyed. And so there's no evidence it never happened, right?
Right.
But nowadays, that's not the case. So you do have to worry about that. And I think that, you know, you need to remember that as a business owner or as a human being in today's day and age, nothing's personal and everything can come bite you in the butt.
Right. So you're always curating that personal.
Yeah. So you should be curating what you're putting out on your personal page.
Exactly.
Specifically, because we've seen it. There have been things that happen to local businesses as a result of something that they posted on their personal page. So,
and that goes back to our values.
If you're willing to deal with the consequences, more power to you. Then go ahead. But you can't complain if you've done or said something, and then it's come back and bitch in the butt.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it goes back to your core values, right? So if you're curating, I just want to say this quickly because yes, how are you more human? Well, you can't be more human unless you think about how you want to do it. And that means understanding your core values. So ours are gratitude and authenticity. They run through everything we do. And that is what makes us more human because that's how we post. It's what we say. It's what we do here. I share stories with you. We share stories about, you know, what's happening. We don't hide when Anastassia's kids are coming over. I don't hide that. I'm like, yep, her kids are coming over right now. Let's, you know, see what's happening. So
it's a 9-year-old for crying out loud.
Exactly. All right. So live content, that's the next thing we want to talk about. We have talked about it for years, but it's more important than ever that you have some live content. That means, and I'm going to be very clear with this, you can hire a company like us, but you also have to do some things live. A really good example of this for us is we work with Engaged Properties out of DC. She does a really good job of showing you what she's doing. And what I love about her, one thing that I think is really funny, because when she first started doing it, I was like, I'm not sure what I think. And then I started paying attention. She will do videos where it's very loud in the background and you can't always hear her. And then she'll step out and then you can hear her. And she does that because she's like, this is what it's like on a job site. We're taking down that wall or we're drilling through this floor. It's loud. That's what it is. But it makes her more personal. It makes her more human, shows you what she does, and piques your interest, right? Because you want to know what's happening. So live content is something you have to do. Anastassia, are there things that you like when you see live content that you're like, yeah, that's what we should do?
Like us, ASMM us, or just anybody?
Our clients or other people?
I mean, I think that these are a great example of things that you can do as a company. You know, we sit there, we're live every week, and we another kid came in the kitchen and totally distracted me. I told everybody at least half an hour of undisturbed time.
For those who are not in Maryland, it's a snow day.
It is, yes.
And there's a lot of excitement in the air. There's a lot of,
Yes.
especially because it was 65 degrees yesterday.
I know, it's crazy. And
there are inches. You can see the snow behind me. Let me see. Let me tilt it so you can really see it. Yeah, you can see the snow coming down behind me. It's crazy.
There's this much on my railings outside.
Yeah, it's a lot of snow. Yeah, can you? Oh, you can't see my deck. I've got a bunch. It's really crazy.
So, yeah, live content. I just want to see what you're doing, right? So I love watching. It's so ridiculous. I love watching any kind of like home, like tilers or anybody that's cutting wood. Like those videos get me every time because I'm like, oh, what are they doing? Because there's this instant gratification when they're done, right? So depending on what you're doing, what your business is, it's just I find everything fascinating. I am a learner. I like to learn things. I like to see how things work. You know, I try my hand at things and then I fail, but you know, like it's watching things, you know.
Well, we have the client who will do live videos of making a margarita, right? Mm-hmm. Or we have people who will do ones of making coffee or making a tea or making a cake. And all of those are fascinating when they're doing them, or they're talking about something that, they just found. Like if Chris has found something crazy in a house, he'll say to the homeowner, "Can I do this? Can I show this?" And then he'll show it. This is what you need to look for in a house, right?
What about, there was one with Chimney Tech where it was literally a painted rectangle on a wall and they had put a fireplace glass thing over the top of it. And I can't remember the specifics. Wasn't it that it had been inspected and they said that it just needed something?
Oh, yeah. And it was not even, it wasn't even a fireplace, but it had, it had
passed inspection, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy. So so live content like that gets people. They love it. It is really attractive to people. They like it. I will do with them where I will talk about, I actually just looked at one that I did last year about being more human, about this time of year last year. So it's really important. Oh, I know what I did. I did one about sending out emails. And that was, I totally forgot I did it. And I watched it the other day about the fact that you can, just to real quick go back to this, for your emails, sit down now and do all of your holidays for the year, create templates, and that way you can have them sent out. And at least in the months that there's a holiday, you've got something going out to your clients, which is a reminder that, hey, I'm here, because we're all forgettable.
And live content, I think this takes you back to our first point, really, right? So by doing live content, it shows that you're a human being.
Exactly.
It shows that you're actually doing something. And it gives people something to engage with. So,
and you don't have to have it on your face, by the way. You could be talking and just showing what you're doing. And that's a great live video. Now, the next one, so live video can be long like this, and they should generally be several minutes so that people have time to come find it. Mm-hmm. But the next point is to keep your videos short. And that actually runs into the following point, which is that we're going to talk about TikTok and Reels. And these are becoming more and more popular. So for these, you have to keep them short. They're very short. And you have to really think them through. So that's the point. You cannot do something long. You're going to have to really, I talked to somebody who does a lot of TikToks, and she says she spends 45 minutes creating her 1-minute TikTok. Wow. That is a lot of work. It is, but it's also getting a lot of views, and you don't always have to do that much work. I think I did one over the break where I did a video of Zane. By the way, you can follow my son, Zane B Music, on Instagram, but I did a reel of him and a solo he was doing for a blues jam. And he's had 6,000 views of the thing, which is amazing to me because it took me the minute to shoot it. That was it. Mm-hmm. I literally did it. So try to do some short videos, try to do them as reels or stories or something where people can see them and just consume them quickly. And you can take them, put them on TikTok and on Instagram. I think TikTok's going to stick around for a little bit, but honestly, my prediction is that Instagram's going to win out and these reels are going to be the thing that went out.
Yeah, well, when you've got meta behind you, it does make a little bit more of an impact. And but just don't. Here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see people getting themselves too much in the reels and the TikTok and forgetting the rest of their social media.
Yes.
Because people are going to be looking for you, right? If they're looking for it, if they're going to start working with a new company for whatever you do need to make sure that you have the content on your regular social media that's not just silly dancing. That stuff's great. It's going to catch your attention, and maybe people are like, oh my gosh, those people are so fun to work with, but is that all they're doing, or are they actually providing some value? And that's where your social media can come and help you.
Oh gosh. And that is something that we really have to just emphasize. You have to add value with your social media. That's what it's all about. So it's actually what we're doing right now. We are adding value. This is not something we charge for. It is free advice. I think, really good advice. And we give it for free, right? We're just putting it out there for you. So do things like that as much as you can. Do things like that, and we can help you. If you have questions, if you're like, I don't know what I would put out there, tell us. Ask us. We've got some great ideas. We work with a lot of people who put out a lot of really good content. So, speaking of which, podcasts in 2022 will, I think, be bigger than ever, because people are spending more time now in their cars than they have in the past few years. They're spending more time in their cars. They're spending more time listening, and it gives you the opportunity to really add value. So, Anastassia, you listen to a lot of podcasts.
I do. I go through things. Either I'm like listening to a book, because then I get all consumed, or I go into the podcast. I mean, my kids love podcasts. There's multiple kids podcasts that we listen to. My son's all into Greek mythology right now, and his ophthalmologist recommended it's a Nat Geo podcast called Greeking Out. So if you have a kid, Greeking Out's hilarious. It's a great little thing. It gives you mythology, but then it's got like this little like Siri kind of twist to it, which is adorable. But yeah, I love podcasts. And it's funny, yesterday I was driving my car and I had it on the radio, which I barely ever have it on the radio, because I'm always playing a book or a podcast in the car. And there was an ad on the radio for a podcast. So I was thinking about that. I'm like, oh, wow, that's really great. I mean, podcasts are such an easy consumable, right? It gives you there used to be one that Mike Rowe did that was short. It was only 7 to 10 minutes. It was, what was it? It's called The Way I Heard It. And it gave you a funny little story, and you had to kind of guess who it was talking about. It was about some famous person. I learned a lot about it, about people listening to that. At some point it transitioned to a long podcast, but I haven't heard it since they've done that. Or, there's 20-minute, 30-minute. I mean, you do go into the hour-long podcast, which, depending on what it is. I like true crime a lot, so that's what I'm predominantly listening to. Or, there was one that we listened to that ended recently that I was sad that they did. The story one.
Oh gosh. I cannot.
You put me on it, and then
oh my gosh,
I can't think of what it is
either. Anyway,
but they did, and I was like, oh, because I loved that podcast, because I mean, it wasn't marketing, but it was just managing, really, right?
Yeah,
managing a business, having clients, just talking about different ways of being in business. And so I really liked that. I was sad when I realized that was ending. But yeah, there's lots of podcasts that I listen to.
Well, and you can listen to them. The thing is, you might think that your business can't do one, right? You might think, I don't think anybody's going to be interested in this. But the truth is, if you do it right, if you really think about it, what you are is a specialist in your field, right? You are the expert in your field. And a podcast shows that. A podcast shows that you are the expert in your field. Since we started our podcast, the first one was Small Business Connections. Immediately we started becoming the expert in our field. People started calling us. Our business grew because of it. It continues to grow because of this one, because people were like, wow, you really do know a lot about digital marketing, and I don't have time to do it. But at the same time, I have people who say, I can't wait until I can afford you, right? Until I'm able to afford you. But right now I'm learning so much just by listening. And that's huge, because then you're top of mind with people. You become, we listen to, and I don't know how much money I've spent with them. We listen to the Michael Hyatt and Megan Hyatt Miller podcast, Lead to Win. We love it. We've spent so much money on their products because we've listened to them for so long. It's a huge, huge moneymaker for them, really. But at the same time, I've said this on the show, I call you all the time and I'm like, Anastassia, did you hear that one?
Yeah.
I didn't know I could do this. This is great. So it's really, very, very helpful. One of the last ones we want to talk about is influencer marketing. This is really big, and it might not necessarily be big for your business, but truthfully, I can hardly think of anybody who could not use the help of an influencer. And one thing to keep in mind is you don't have to have a big influencer, right? You don't have to have someone who has millions of followers. If you have someone who has 1,000 followers, but they're all in your area, then that's a great influencer to have. And generally they will do it either for free or for swag, right? If you've got swag, they'll do it for that. So do think about finding people. A really good example, we're working with Absolutely Everything Curly, which is a blog, it's a website that's a subscription website that's really pretty cool. And we're looking for influencers there because people with curly hair need this product, but they need people who trust it, right? And so we're looking for influencers who will go and review the page and help us start influencing their market to come in and look at this new website.
I guess the audience size is the difference between an influencer and an ambassador, right?
No, so an ambassador, they're very, very similar. An ambassador, you don't necessarily have to have that many followers, but you're going to set it out and say, hey, we need you to please, if you're an ambassador, we're going to give you these things, and we want you to do a review. We want you to wear our products. We want you to put your badge on your website. An influencer is similar. Usually you're going to pay them at least something. You're going to do something for them. Maybe you're not paying them. Maybe what you're doing is saying, what I'm going to do is promote you on my stuff as well, right? I'm going to give you a plug. Maybe you are paying them. So a lot of influencers make a lot of money if it's a big enough product. So it's and you have different levels. You have micro influencers and you have the bigger ones. So you want to find what really works for you. If you're only in Anne Arundel County, you don't necessarily need somebody who's got a national following, right? You need somebody who's in Anne Arundel County. Well, if you're in Anne Arundel County and you are a pediatrician, then what you need is a mom, right? Who will talk about you. So that's the sort of thing. You've got to figure out what it is. What area are you? So you want Anne Arundel County, actually maybe not even Anne Arundel County, Annapolis, because most of your patients are going to come from the same town where you are. And they need to be a mom. So you're going to have to narrow it down what you're looking for.
Yeah. It's just like narrowing down your audience when you're promoting, when you're boosting any post. You want to make sure that you're as targeted as possible so that you're not wasting your money. We met with a client the other week and he was asking us about followers and so forth. And we're like, look, we can get you a ton of followers. Are they going to be local, and are they going to actually benefit your business? And that's what you need to look at. If there's, I think there was a dance studio, 10,000 followers. Really?
Yeah.
What is that 10,000 followers doing for them? Nothing. So you can't.
Most of them are from India and other places like that, right?
You've got to look at the quality of the followers. And as a business, what can you actually sustain? So there's so many things that you need to look at when you're looking at insights. people are targeted on one little number that doesn't necessarily help you at all. So
absolutely, which is why it's important when you're looking at your influencers that you're looking at the right thing, not necessarily how many followers they have, but how active are they? Are they posting every day? If they're posting every day and they're willing to post about you several times a week, that's huge. If they've got 1,000 followers, right? So
for instance, with that absolutely everything curly, that's an international site, right? So really, for her, we could put anybody. You know, as long as they are active and they have a good following, it'll work. But those same people won't work for most of our other clients because you need to be hyper local. Make it work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So this is one I want to talk about because people ask me all the time. We tell you to be on every single social media platform, right? We want you to be on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn. And a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm not that kind of business. Well, most of you are. And we can tell you that. I've talked to a realtor who said, oh, but I'm really, it's person to person. I don't really want to talk to business owners. Well, business owners own houses. Right. So you should
they can afford to buy them.
Right. Exactly. So you should be on LinkedIn. So think about things from that standpoint. You want to be on all of them from an SEO standpoint, and because people are everywhere these days, but you don't want to spread your focus so thin that you can't really pay attention. That's why we use a scheduler, right? We want you to use a scheduler. We use Zoho Social. But we've used others in the past. We really like Zoho Social a lot. So if you use Zoho Social, you can schedule it out so that it goes to all the places. But for instance, with me, I am really on Twitter. It is where my focus lies. I am on Twitter all the time, several times a day, you know, and that's where I am focusing. I cannot be on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn several times a day. I can be on the one and really focus on getting business from that particular site. So I want you to think about what matters. But the reason we want you to have the rest of them is for SEO purposes and because you just don't know where your clients are. So the best example of that is
Sorry, go ahead.
When we went to New York. When we went to New York and we were doing it for an energy company. And as I was walking around this conference they had, I was doing video and I'd say, hey, I want to tag you. And they would say, oh, well, I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Well, okay, then I'm going to switch over to Facebook and do a live video and tag you there. Right. So you want to be able to tag your customers and you also want them to be able to tag you. Right? If you're not on Instagram and they can't tag it, just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I went to a really great coffee shop and they're not on Instagram. And I took a great picture because the food was beautiful and I couldn't tag them and it made me sad. So, and it was too bad for them too, because I have pretty good followers on Instagram, right? So you do want to be able to have people tag you, but you do want to not spread your focus too thin.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say too is I was recently somewhere and I was having a conversation with a lady and we were talking about social media. Actually, we were both talking to somebody else who was trying to do her own thing. And this person was like, oh, I don't put the same content on Facebook at the same time as I put it on Instagram and Twitter and all that. Like I vary the days. So, but I'm like, here's the thing. People aren't switching from Instagram to Facebook to Twitter to LinkedIn to see. So by doing that, you're giving yourself more work.
Right.
It's unnecessary.
Right. Exactly.
You know, people pick a platform. As a business, you are probably going to be checking different platforms to make sure, you know, just to keep up on things.
No, there are exceptions to that, right? There are exceptions in that if you're doing a picture, you know, we talk about it all the time, the show me your butt girls. Right. You're not going to put a picture if you are a weight loss company and your whole spiel is to show your butt, you know, to show pictures of your backside, then maybe you're not going to put that on LinkedIn. That's an exception. But there really aren't that many exceptions.
Yeah.
You know, that's just, there aren't that many exceptions. And
I'm just saying, don't make it harder for yourself.
Right.
You know, it's hard enough to sit down and create the content and schedule it out.
Exactly.
By adding any variables, you're just guaranteeing that at some point you're going to miss something. Now, we don't post every day on Twitter for everybody because it doesn't make a difference for everybody. Really, the main reason we do it is for SEO. So as long as there's a post or two a week that go on Twitter, we're happy with that for the most part. It does what we need it to do. But just keep that in mind. You don't make this harder than it needs to be.
Right. Exactly. All right. Finally, we always leave you with an actionable item. And we do this because we say in the beginning, we want you to be able to walk away with something you can put to work in your business. I think you can put any of these things to work in your business. I think you can really start thinking about being more personal. I think you can really start doing live video. If you just shoot us a message, man, leave us a comment. We will message you back and give you some tips. There's also, our blog has some really great tips on prompts for live videos. That's actually one of my favorite blog posts that we have, is prompts for live videos. So Whitney will put that in the show notes here. So that will be a good thing for you to find. But we want, for an actionable item this week, is for you to choose your word for the year. We started doing this. I started doing this back in 2016. My first time was fearless. That was the first word I chose. And it was a good word because it was my first year really in business, and it was scary, right? And I wanted to live fearlessly. Last year, I chose intentional. I chose it for our business. I chose it for myself, and it was a great word for us. So this year I actually chose health after watching my dad die, after seeing how sick he was in the end and how much of that might have been prevented. I chose health. The reason I like the word that I chose is because I try to choose words that can apply to everything. So health, yes, my physical health. Health, yes, I run burgers and vans, so my mental health is important. Health, my business, the health of my business is important. The health of my employees is important, both their physical and mental. And the health of my family and the health of my marriage, right? It really, and the health of my faith. The faith is really important to me. So am I being faithful? Am I having a healthy attitude towards my faith? So health is a big word for me. Anastassia, you chose a word. Did you want to talk about
you know what, they changed it because as we were talking about it, I was like, intentional was something that I thought of last year as well. But I think I need to be more present. Like I think that's something that I need to work on. I mean, I try really hard to do that, but then I find myself distracted. And so I'm like, you know what, that's something that I need to try and hone in a little bit more, so that when I'm home with the kids, I mean, obviously today's that's not going to happen. I'm at home working while the kids are crazy. But you know what? I am grateful for a snow day. I love snow, and we never get enough of it over here. So I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I think being present, like trying to just, okay, even though I'm in the middle, because I mean, I get interrupted all day long. And sometimes I'm talking to somebody, but I still have that other thing on my mind, and I need to try and turn that off, focus for a minute, and then try and come back to that. I don't know how successful I'm going to be, but I will make it.
I love that. I love that word, Anastassia. I think I've told you the story before, but when Zane was, I guess, about 5 years old, maybe 6 years old, I was driving him to school, and he was talking to me, and he kept talking and talking. And I was like, Zane, you've got to stop. You're interrupting. And he's like, you're not talking to anybody.
Oh,
it's like, you're right. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So it is important that you're present, because I was not present that day in the car. So
it's so easy to not be. We have so many things going on.
Absolutely.
And I'm very guilty of it. My kids will talk and I'm like, okay, now let's move on. Keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think health will be our word for our business this year. Usually the business word runs right along with what we're doing. And for me, again, that applies to everything: the health of our business financially, the health of our business as far as customer service goes, the health of our customers, and the health of our employees, right? I think health is a really good word going into this year. So especially considering where we are right now. All right. I want to remind everybody, please go to asmmdigital.com/blog. You will learn so much. We have an amazing blog there. Go in and try to find the ones, the prompts for live videos. They're very, very helpful. And I am embarrassed. I did not look at what's up next week. Do you know, Anastassia?
It will take me 2 seconds to find out. While I'm doing that, though, I do want to say we only release our email via email. So if you want more information about what we just talked about, this is from the email that we just, oh no, it is on the blog. Sorry, I lied. The marketing trends of 2022, that is on the blog. So
yeah, that's one that I do that with every year.
Yeah. So I think that we are on Who Are You Talking To and creating personas. That's an interesting one.
Oh, so yeah, that'll be great.
That'll be our next podcast.
Yeah. And we actually, I'm going to give you a sneak peek at that one. We have a client, we're working with Sunday PC, and we created personas for them. And I love the extent to which they have taken these personas, because a couple of weeks ago, actually, while I was in Alabama, they had a photo shoot and they created desks for each of their personas, desks with their computer on it, but what that person would have. And it was so in depth what they had on the desk for each of their personas. So that was really, really cool to watch. Yeah, that was a great example. So we'll talk more about that, how you create that, really how much you're going to dig into it and why it matters, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Just once again, please do go subscribe over at youtube.com/BrennaandAnnie, or wherever you listen to the podcast. If you love the podcast, please leave us a review wherever you're listening. All right, everybody, we will see you again soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.